Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to get you the essential knowledge fast. Today, we're diving into a role that's, well, often behind the scenes but totally critical, the Chief Risk Officer, the CRO. We're going to unpack what it really takes to succeed in this high-stakes job. Our source today, it's an interesting piece from Interview Prep, just came out April 30th, 2025. It's called 20 Interview Questions Every Chief Risk Officer Should Be Prepared For. Now, okay, don't let that title fool you. It says Interview Prep, but honestly, the insights here, they go way beyond just getting a job. Think of this as your fast track to understanding how organizations, protect themselves from big financial hits, other major threats. It's like getting a look at how the ultimate organizational guardian really works.
Exactly. And what's so interesting, I think, is that these questions, they really lay bare the core ideas of proactive management. And that applies way beyond just risk, right? Understanding the CRO role isn't just for execs. It's crucial for anyone interested in business strategy, even just how organizations stay healthy. It shows how smart companies look ahead, anticipate problems, make sure they're compliant, build resilience. These questions sort of peel back the layers on spotting trouble before it becomes a full-blown crisis. It's great insight into top-level thinking.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. So we'll start with the basics, the foundation of the CRO role, how they actually build that structure for risk protection. So first up from the source, developing and implementing risk management strategies. What does that look like?
Well, this question really gets at practical experience. Can you actually identify, assess, and then mitigate risks? It's not just about listing things that could go wrong. It's demonstrating how you help the organization reach its goals without taking on unnecessary exposure.
So real examples are key then.
Absolutely. Concrete examples. Like maybe you led a team developing a big cybersecurity strategy for a bank. Or you put in place internal audit processes for, say, regulatory compliance. And of course, you need deep knowledge of what's happening now. Cybersecurity trends, new regulations, financial stability stuff like liquidity, having enough cash, market risk, credit risk, are customers going to pay, all that.
Okay, so it's the big picture strategy, but also the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
Making sure rules are actually followed. Why is that piece ensuring compliance so critical?
Oh, it's fundamental, but it's more than just checking boxes. It's about really understanding the legal requirements, deeply understanding them, and then having a solid plan, a bulletproof plan to make sure everyone sticks to them across the board.
And then evolve.
Processes like regular audits, thorough ones, staying totally current on law changes because they never stop changing. And this is key, working closely with other departments, embedding compliance so it's not just a rule book somewhere, but part of how people work every day.
Right, making it part of the culture.
Exactly.
But then, how do you know if it's all working? The strategy, the compliance efforts.
Yeah.
How does a CRO figure out if the existing processes are actually effective?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a multi-step thing. First, you really dig into the existing policies, the procedures. Are they just up to date? Or are they truly best practice for the industry right now?
All right.
Then you look at adherence. Are people actually following these rules consistently across all departments? Because a policy nobody follows is useless.
True.
And finally, you measure the impact. How are these processes affecting the organization's overall performance? Are they helping, hurting? It's about finding the weaknesses, yeah, but also proving the value of the good stuff you've put in place, which really brings up a bigger point.
Right.
How do companies really know their safeguards work in the real world, not just on paper?
That's a fundamental challenge, isn't it? Moving past the checklist to actual measurable impact. And speaking of systems, the article mentions frameworks. Enterprise risk management sounds big.
Yeah.
Systematic. What exactly is an framework? Why is it so vital?
Yeah. Think of it as a systematic, holistic way to manage risk across the entire organization, not just in silos. It lets you see all the different kinds of risk, financial, operational, strategic, even reputational, all in one connected picture.
Oh, okay. Like a dashboard.
Sort of conceptually, yeah. Key parts include doing a really thorough risk assessment, constantly monitoring and managing those risks you found, having really clear ways to communicate between the risk team and everyone else, and set guidelines for reporting things quickly. Sounds straightforward, but the real power, and honestly, the challenge, is weaving it into the company's DNA, not just as a compliance thing, but as how every department operates. That's where a lot of companies stumble, even big ones.
I could have to see that being tough.
Yeah.
So if you have this big picture view, and maybe everything looks like a risk, how do you decide what to tackle first? How does a CRO prioritize?
Yeah, prioritization is critical. You can't boil the ocean. The process usually starts by identifying all the potential risks, both internal, like operational issues, and external, like market shifts. Then you assess the potential impact. How likely is it? And if it happens, how bad could it be?
Okay, likelihood and impact.
Exactly. Based on that, you prioritize by severity. What's most dangerous? What needs attention now? A common tool here is something called a risk matrix. It's basically a grid. You plot risks on it based on likelihood and impact. Helps you visualize the priorities.
Makes sense.
Once you have priorities, the CRO figures out mitigation strategies. That could be risk avoidance, maybe just deciding not to launch that risky product, or risk transfer, like buying insurance. Risk reduction, making it less likely or less damaging. Or even risk acceptance, deciding, okay, we understand this risk and we're willing to take it.
Hmm.
And this isn't static. The plan needs regular review updates because the risk landscape is always shifting.
Right. Okay, this next theme is where it gets really fascinating for me. The CRO as the proactive guardian, not just reacting, but actively looking around corners, anticipating things. How do they actually identify and mitigate risks before they blow up?
This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's about that proactive mindset. The source gives a good example. Say you spot some discrepancies in a big client contract. Little details, maybe. But if you look closely, they could mean you can't actually fulfill your obligations later. Big risk.
Right.
A proactive CRO doesn't wait for the client to complain or for things to go wrong. They jump on it. They'd work with legal, with the internal teams, renegotiate those terms now. Find a solution that works for everyone, avoids any future problems. It's that strategic thinking, that proactive problem solving that stops a potential disaster before it even starts, saves a lot of headaches and potentially money.
That's really impressive foresight.
Mhm.
But the world changes so fast, new tech, new rules. How does a CRO possibly stay ahead of the curve on all these industry trends and developments?
It's constant learning, a multi-pronged approach, really. They're definitely going to industry conferences, seminars, hearing about what's new, what threats are emerging. They read a lot, specialized industry publications. They do webinars, online courses for specific deep knowledge.
Networking too, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. Networking with other risk professionals is huge. Sharing insights, learning from peers, joining organizations like RIMS, that's the Risk and Insurance Management Society, is pretty standard. But the real skill, I think, isn't just gathering the info. It's translating those broad trends into what they mean for your specific company's risk profile, moving from just knowing stuff to actually anticipating strategically.
Okay, so it's knowing the trends, but also the tools, the tech that helps manage it all.
Yeah.
What's the approach when researching new risk management tools? How do they know if something is actually practical?
Good point. Yeah, the tech side is increasingly important. The research usually starts broad, looking at those industry trends again, seeing what tools others are using, reading reviews, what's actually working out there.
Mhm.
Then it gets practical. You have to rigorously assess a tool. What's the real cost, including implementation and training? How easy is it to actually put in place? Can it scale up if the company grows? And maybe most importantly, is it user-friendly?
Yeah.
Will the teams actually use it effectively? It involves understanding complex tech quickly and making smart choices about what genuinely adds value, not just, the latest shiny object.
Makes sense. But, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Even the best CROs must have initiatives that,
Mhm.
well, that don't work out. What happens then? How do they handle managing an initiative that failed? Is there a silver lining?
Yeah, the source touches on this and it stresses honesty. And more than that, learning. You have to learn from mistakes. It gives an example like maybe an oversight in the initial assessment leads to a significant financial loss. That happens. Yeah. The key lessons learned there often involve being way more careful in future risk assessments, getting better at anticipating those unexpected problems, and crucially, improving how risks are communicated to stakeholders, making it clearer, more concise, more impactful. It really raises a fascinating question for organizations, doesn't it? How do you build a culture where people aren't punished for mistakes, but where learning from them is genuinely valued? That's how you get more resilient.
That's such a critical point. It's easy to say, learn from failure, but creating that safe culture, that's the real leadership challenge. And things keep changing, so how do risk practices keep evolving? How does a CRO make sure everything stays relevant and effective over time?
It's all about continuous adaptation. There's no finish line. So yes, it means consistently doing all that stuff we mentioned, conferences, reading, networking to stay plugged into shifts in regulations, tech, global risks. But more practically, inside the company, it means regular internal audits and reviews. Not just of operations, but of the risk framework itself. Is it still fit for purpose? They're constantly developing, refining mitigation strategies, maybe finding a way to reduce exposure to a certain market risk by 20% with a new comprehensive plan. It's ongoing, it's iterative, it's never a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. This role, it's clearly not just about spreadsheets and rules. It sounds deeply human, lots of communication, diplomacy. How does a CRO handle those really difficult conversations, like with senior execs or the board, about risk issues?
Yeah, that takes real skill. Professionalism and a lot of diplomacy are absolutely key. You have to communicate issues that might be complex, maybe even uncomfortable, but do it using clear, concise language. Avoid jargon as much as possible.
Right, make it understandable.
Exactly. And the focus shouldn't be on, fear-mongering. It should be on the positive outcomes. How managing this risk well will benefit the organization. That approach helps build trust, fosters collaboration, even when you're delivering tough news about needed changes or maybe investments they need to make.
That's a vital skill in any leadership spot, but especially here. How do they take these complex risk concepts and simplify them for people who aren't risk experts, for non-technical stakeholders?
It really comes down to tailoring the message, knowing your audience. So strategies include breaking down complex ideas into simpler, more relatable language. Like instead of just talking cyber risk, explain it as something that could, shut down operations or expose customer data. Make it real.
Got it.
Tailor the examples too. Use examples that resonate with the sales team, maybe different ones for the finance team based on financial impact. And crucially, always emphasize that everyone plays a role in risk management, from the top floor to the shop floor. Everyone. It's about making risk relatable and making it clear what actions they can take.
Okay, and what about external relationships, like working with external auditors? That sounds like inviting scrutiny. How does that work?
It's a necessary scrutiny. External auditors provide that crucial, independent, unbiased look at the company's risk practices. You actually want that objective view.
Okay, fair point.
So a good CRO needs experience dealing with all sorts of auditors, government agencies, private firms, nonprofits. They need to know the specific regulatory requirements inside out. It's not just about reacting when the auditors show up. It's about proactively building and maintaining compliant processes all the time and collaborating openly with them, sharing information, working together to find and fix potential risks. It should be a partnership, really, built on transparency and trust. Ultimately, it makes the organization stronger. And, this loops back to building that internal culture of risk awareness we talked about. So how do you really get everyone involved? Ensure all employees, not just managers, truly understand their roles and responsibilities in managing risk.
Yeah, how do you make it stick for everybody?
It needs a comprehensive approach and persistence. It starts with things like crystal clear job descriptions that actually spell out risk-related duties, regular engaging training sessions, not just boring compliance videos, but stuff that actually resonates. Frequent reviews to keep risk top of mind and hold people accountable, providing ongoing support, guidance, encouraging people to take ownership, whether it's spotting a weird email or flagging a potential safety issue. And underpinning it all, fostering that culture of open communication we mentioned, where people feel genuinely safe asking questions or raising concerns without, fearing blame. It's really about empowering every single person to be a part of the solution, to be a frontline risk spotter.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And what about other external folks? The article mentions building relationships with insurers, regulators, vendors, and that sounds like more diplomacy.
Yeah.
Why are those relationships so vital?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. Strategic, even. It's not just about being polite. Staying well-informed on industry trends and regulations helps you have meaningful conversations with these groups. You know what they care about. Prioritizing communication, regular meetings, clear emails, make sure there are no surprises on either side, keeps everyone in the loop. And sometimes showing flexibility, being accommodating where you can, really strengthens those partnerships. Building that trust externally can be incredibly valuable, especially if a crisis hits. And it ensures these key players understand what the organization is doing. It builds a supportive external network.
Okay, last theme here. Protecting the core. The concrete measures a CRO puts in place to guard against the biggest threats, including, actual crises. What happens when a significant risk does materialize? How is a crisis managed?
Yeah, when things really go sideways, the source gives a good practical example. Imagine a major supplier is suddenly at risk of going bankrupt. That could be a huge crisis for a company relying on them. So in that scenario, the CRO's first job is speed and assessment. Quickly identify all the potential ripple effects. What's the exact impact on our organization? And this has to happen fast, under pressure. Then you develop a contingency plan, often multiple plans, plan B, plan C, what are all alternatives? And then often you work directly with that supplier, if possible, to try and minimize the disruption, limit the damage. It's all about damage control, minimizing the fallout, and keeping the business running as smoothly as possible.
So it's not just managing the risks you know about, but
Uh-huh.
also constantly trying to make the process of risk management itself better. What kind of experience is needed with process improvement?
Absolutely. Continuous improvement is baked into the role. It's about never being satisfied, always looking for ways to be more efficient, more effective. So yes, it involves constantly identifying areas where current risk processes could be better, making the necessary changes. And then this is important, rigorously tracking the results. Did the change actually work? Did it improve things?
Like what kind of changes?
Well, a CRO might lead a team to develop a new, more accurate risk assessment tool, or maybe introduce automated systems to track risk data more efficiently, or even overhaul and implement entirely new risk management policies if the old ones aren't cutting it anymore. It's about constantly refining that whole risk infrastructure.
Okay, and protecting the company from internal threats,
hmm
fraud, criminal activities. What kind of safeguards are put in place there? Setting up internal controls.
Yeah, protecting from the inside is critical too. It's usually a multi-layered approach. It starts with those comprehensive risk assessments again, but this time looking specifically for internal vulnerabilities. Where are the weak spots someone could exploit? Then you develop really clear, unambiguous policies and procedures, especially around financial activities, transactions. Make the right way the easy way and the wrong way hard. Technology plays a big role too. Implementing things like strict access controls, who can access what systems and data, segregation of duties, and again, ongoing staff training on the protocols, making sure everyone knows the rules and why they matter. It's about building that culture of integrity and accountability.
Makes sense. And one last big one, especially now, data security. How is sensitive information truly protected? How does a CRO approach defining and ensuring data security?
Hugely important, and getting more so every day. Data security is basically the whole set of policies, procedures, and technologies you use to protect sensitive info. Protect it from anyone who shouldn't see it or use it. Unauthorized access, use, disclosure.
And the concrete measures.
Yeah. Things like implementing strong encryption protocols, especially for data that's moving, making it unreadable if someone intercepts it. Using multi-factor authentication, MFA, for access control. So it's not just a password protecting sensitive systems. Regular, reliable backups of all critical data are essential. You have to be able to recover if something goes wrong. And, back to the people side, constant staff education. Training sessions on data security, best practices, phishing awareness, things like that. But honestly, beyond the tech, the real insight is that truly robust data security isn't just about firewalls. It's about embedding a culture of vigilance. Everyone being careful, everyone being accountable. A top CRO is always looking ahead, staying on top of industry trends, new threats, new regulations to keep adapting those defenses. So, if we pull all this together, the CRO role is this really fascinating mix. It's strategic foresight, yes, but also meticulous attention to detail. It's diplomacy and communication, but also decisive action in a crisis. It really shows that proper protection isn't just reacting when bad things happen. It's about systematically anticipating them, building strong defenses, and, maybe most importantly, fostering that culture where everyone feels responsible for safeguarding the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, understanding the sheer scope of what a CRO does, the kind of mindset they need, that proactive, resilient thinking, really gives you an amazing shortcut to grasping what makes an organization truly resilient. It highlights that for basically any endeavor, big or small, that ability to spot potential problems, deal with them proactively, and learn from every single experience, especially the failures, that's just paramount. It's about building a really solid foundation, not just for a huge company, but really for any complex system, any project you might be working on yourself. So here's something to think about. If managing risk is fundamentally about protecting an organization or a project from unforeseen challenges, how could you apply these principles we've talked about? Things like proactive identification, clear communication, especially the difficult stuff, continuous learning from setbacks, and building that sense of collective responsibility. How could you apply those ideas to navigate the uncertainties in your own work, your personal projects, or even just your daily decisions?